My father left a voicemail. Christmas was canceled. Anticipate a call from my lawyer. I didn't argue. I simply texted back. Got it. Then I quietly took my name off the $320,000 mortgage. And 48 hours later, there were 67 missed calls. Their lawyer was frantic, pleading for answers. Hey Reddit, that year, Christmas was meant to be uncomplicated. No presents, no drama, just family. But in my home, tranquility never lasted long. My dad had a tendency to turn every holiday into a test of loyalty, obedience, and control. And each time, someone wound up failing, usually me. It was a Wednesday morning when it happened. I was at work wrapping up year-end reports, with my coffee half cold next to my desk when my phone vibrated. A voicemail from Dad. I put down my pen, pressed play, and his voice came through, calm, clear, and deliberate. Christmas is off. Expect a call from my lawyer. That was all. No explanation, no reasons, just that. I remember staring at the screen, watching the voicemail finish, then chuckling softly to myself. Because after everything, the years of emotional manipulation, guilt trips, this was how he decided to handle it. So, I didn't call back or ask why. I just texted one word. Understood. I returned to work as if nothing had happened. But inside, something changed. You see, for years, my father's name had been linked to mine, financially, legally, emotionally. When my mom fell ill years ago, I co-signed their mortgage to help keep their home. $320,000. A burden I quietly bore while he acted as if he had done it all alone. But that day, as I replayed his voicemail, something inside me shifted. Not out of anger, but out of clarity. If he could erase me from his holiday, maybe it was time I erase myself from his financial obligations. That night, I called my lawyer. Can we legally remove my name from my parents' mortgage? I inquired. He hesitated. Since you're a co-signer and not the primary borrower, you can start the removal process as long as you pay any early release fees. How much? I asked. He told me. I didn't flinch. Go ahead. By the next morning, the paperwork was ready. A few signatures and a verification call, and by 3 p.m., it was official. My name was gone, just like that. No warnings, no confrontations, no fights, just silence. And that silence felt better than any revenge I had ever imagined. For 2 days, nothing happened. Then the storm began. It started with missed calls, 3, then 10, then 20. By the time I turned my phone on the third morning, there were 67 missed calls and 14 voicemails. I listened to the first one. Mom's voice was frantic. Honey, what did you do? The bank called. They said the account changed. Then Dad's voice. You can't just walk away like this. We have payments due. Another call was from their lawyer. Please return this call immediately. There's been a situation. I just sat there, listening, breathing, smiling softly because for the first time in my life, I wasn't the one panicking. They were. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine, sat by the window, and reflected on every Christmas past. The one where Dad told me I was too independent. The one where he said I would never make it without him. The one where he gave my brother a new watch and me a self-help book titled How to Be Less Difficult. And suddenly, his voicemail made perfect sense. It wasn't about Christmas, it was about control. He couldn't bear that I had built a life without him, that I no longer needed his approval, his money, or his permission to exist. So he wanted to remind me that in his world, he still pulled the strings. This time, however, I cut all of them. At 9 p.m., the calls started again. First Mom, then Dad, then their lawyer. I finally picked up. Hello. It was Dad's lawyer, his tone anxious. Your parents are quite upset. They said you removed your name from the mortgage. Yes, I replied calmly. Well, you see, that's caused a problem. The bank is reevaluating the loan, and they're no longer eligible for their current rate. Payments are doubling. I sipped my wine. Oh, that must be stressful. He hesitated. Yes. Well, your father has asked if you could reinstate your name. I smiled. Tell him to expect a call from my lawyer. The line went dead silent. Then the lawyer stuttered, I understand. I hung up. For years, I allowed my family to treat me as if I owed them something, like everything I had belonged to them. But that night, I realized something simple. You don't owe love to those who wield it as a weapon. You don't owe loyalty to those who trade it for power. And you don't owe your peace to those who thrive on taking it away. The next morning, I blocked their numbers. Every single one. The calls ceased. The guilt vanished. The quiet remained. And in that quiet, I found peace. Real peace. Maybe Christmas was off that year, but honestly, it was the best one I ever had. Because for once, the silence wasn't cold. It was freedom. But what I didn't know then was that my decision would have repercussions far beyond that house. Because 2 weeks later, Dad's lawyer would call again, not to threaten, but to plead. And what he revealed that day made me understand the true cost of severing ties and why sometimes peace comes at a price. Weeks later, their lawyer arrived at my office with a folder labeled urgent. When I read what was inside, I realized my father's arrogance hadn't just ruined Christmas. It had dismantled everything he'd built. 2 weeks passed. 2 quiet, beautiful weeks. No calls, no drama, no guilt, just peace. I finally started to sleep again, eat again, smile again. But peace doesn't endure long in families like mine. One afternoon, as snow fell outside my office window, my assistant came in and whispered, "There's someone here to see you. Says he's your father's lawyer." For a moment, I almost laughed. Of course, he showed up. I told her to let him in. He walked in slowly, tall and anxious, clutching a folder marked urgent. He didn't sit, didn't smile, just looked at me like a man who'd rather be anywhere else. "I didn't want to come here," he began softly. "But your father insisted. He's in trouble." I tilted my head. "What kind of trouble?" He hesitated. "The kind that arises when someone thinks they're smarter than the law." He opened the folder and slid a document toward me. It was a copy of their mortgage renewal, and right beneath my old signature was another one, mine. Except it wasn't mine. Someone had forged it. My hands went still. My voice dropped to a whisper. "He forged my name." The lawyer nodded solemnly. "He did. After you withdrew, the bank refused their refinance. He panicked, said he'd take care of it. He didn't realize banks verify signatures." I stared at the paper, feeling a strange mix of shock and clarity. After everything, the voicemail, the calls, the silence, he still thought he could manipulate the system. Still thought he could manipulate me. The lawyer cleared his throat. "The bank flagged it as fraud. They're preparing to press charges unless it's resolved privately. Your father wanted me to ask if you'd consider not pursuing it." I leaned back slowly, crossing my arms. Not pursuing the fact that he forged my signature on a $320,000 document. He swallowed hard. "Yes," I almost smiled. "Tell him," I said. "Understood." The lawyer blinked. That's it, I replied softly. "And tell him to expect a call from my lawyer again." That night, the phone began ringing again. Mom first, then Dad, then the lawyer. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I forwarded everything to my attorney. The next day, I received an update. The bank froze the mortgage account. The property was now under legal review, and my father was facing an investigation for forgery. It wasn't what I wanted, but it was what he deserved. I thought maybe then he'd stop. Perhaps humiliation would teach him humility, but I was mistaken. Because 2 nights later, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, it was my mother. Her eyes looked weary. She seemed older than I remembered, and in her hands, she held a small box wrapped in gold paper. I hesitated. "Mom." She forced a weak smile. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. She placed the box on my table. "It's your Christmas gift," she whispered. "He bought it weeks ago before all of this started." I looked at it, but I didn't open it. "Why are you really here, Mom?" Her lip quivered. "They're going to take the house, honey." He made a mistake. "Yes," but I gently interrupted her. "No, Mom. He didn't make a mistake. He made a choice." She didn't respond, just wiped her eyes and whispered, "He's not eating. He just sits there waiting for the phone to ring." I exhaled slowly. The part of me that once felt pity was gone. I spent years waiting for his calls, too, Mom. And when they came, they only ever brought pain. She cried softly. "Please forgive him." I looked at her for a long time before answering. Forgiveness doesn't mean allowing someone to continue breaking you. It just means I've stopped letting it define me. I handed her the box back. "Give this to him. Tell him, I finally understand what peace feels like, and I hope one day he does too." She nodded, tears silently streaming down her face. Then she left. Weeks passed. Their house went on the market. The investigation concluded quietly. Dad avoided formal charges by paying hefty penalties. He sold 2 cars, his stocks, and what was left of his pride. And just like that, the man who once called me ungrateful was living in a small rented apartment, writing me apology letters he never sent. I didn't need revenge anymore, because witnessing someone face the consequences of their actions is the most silent form of justice there is. This Christmas, I decorated my own little tree. No chaos, no phone calls, just quiet. And when I placed the last ornament, I smiled because peace doesn't always come wrapped in forgiveness. Sometimes it comes wrapped in distance.